Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our almost last Phase 3 assembly of this academic year. I want to start off by saying a huge well done to everyone who was nominated and also to the winners of the sports awards that took place yesterday. It was lovely to be part of those awards, even if they were delivered virtually and not as part of the auditorium. And a huge thank you and show of appreciation to our amazing PE staff led by Mr. Long and Mr. Bedford as well for all of their efforts that they put in to put those awards together. As I said, it's almost our final Phase 3 assembly of the year. I'm not sure if the year has gone quicker because of the online learning process, or if at times it's gone a bit slower. Sometimes I've lost track of what day it even is during the online learning process, but needless to say, we are almost at the end of the academic year. So I'm going to talk to you today in our phase assembly about changes. And it's something that sometimes causes huge amounts of excitement, but also sometimes comes with some anxieties and worries. So for today's assembly, we're going to explore some of those emotions that we might be feeling at this time of year and looking ahead to the next academic year for something to be excited about as well. Changes can take place all the time, and sometimes the changes are so regular they just feel like normal and they just pass us by like nothing's ever happened. And sometimes a change comes about that we are really looking forward to. For instance, the music that I played at the start of the assembly is from The Four Seasons by Vivaldi. And it was pieces of music put together to represent the different seasons, which, coming from the UK, is something that I really look forward to. I look forward to summer because I want to get outside in the fresh air. Sometimes it's dry and sometimes it's nice weather. More often than not, it's raining. And then you've got autumn, where you've got the crisp brown leaves that you can go through the park and you can crunch across the leaves. And then comes winter, hopefully bringing it with its snow, ice and frost. And although it's a bit of a chore to wrap up in all those warm clothes, it's amazing to go out on those fresh winter mornings, maybe taking your dog for a walk across the frost-covered hills. Those are changes that I always really look forward to. Some of the changes might be more difficult though. They might seem frightening to us because it's something that we're not quite sure what to expect as an end result. Changes like starting a new school or maybe joining a new class might give us something to worry about. Not for all of us, and some of us might have things to look forward to, but some of us it might cause some apprehension. Most of us feel some uncomfortable feelings when a new change happens, but often we can feel excited and happy emotions as well. I'm going to share with you 3 stories this morning. And as I read them through, I want you to think about what change is taking place and what's happening to the different children at the different ages. Listen carefully to the stories and think about how you might feel if these changes were happening to you. My first story is about a boy called Ben, who's starting in foundation stage. My daughter is starting in FS1 in September. I wonder if some of her experiences might be like Ben's. Imagine you're Ben, and imagine how you might be feeling as I read through the story. It was Ben's first day in his new school. He knows some of the children in his class because they were in his nursery. But there will be lots of children that he's never met before. In Ben's new class, there is a brilliant train track, some computers and iPads, and a big water tray. Ben is looking forward to playing with everything, but he's worried about staying to dinner for the first time and getting used to all the new people. Ben finds where to put his bag and his books, and he hangs up his jacket. But everything looks strange to him. He holds very tightly onto his special, tiny bear that he has brought in his pocket. Ben's tummy is going up and down, and he decides that he wants his mum to stay with him today. Cast your minds back to when you started in foundation stage. What was it like in that school? You might have joined King's School Al Barsha in FS, or you might have been going to a different FS classroom in a different school. Can you empathise with how Ben's feeling at the moment? What might he be feeling? Try to cast your minds back to when you started FS. What was it like? My second story is about a boy called Rashid. Again, try to picture yourself in the story and put yourself in Rashid's shoes. Rashid has a very big family, but he's lucky enough to have his own small bedroom. Rashid often goes to his own room to get peace and quiet when he wants to read or go on his iPad. One night, Mum tells Rashid that she has some very special news. Rashid's cousin, Dajit, is coming from India to stay with them for a long visit. Mum is going to squeeze another bed into Rashid's bedroom, and the two boys will share. I hope you'll be very kind to Dajit, says Mum. This is a big change for him, coming over to England for the first time to meet a family that he's never met before. I hope you two will have fun together. That night, Rashid lies awake. He thinks about the cousin that he's never met. He wonders if they will like each other. He thinks about having to share his room with a stranger. He wonders where he will go when he wants some peace, and whether Dajit will always be wanting to go on the iPad. Then Rashid thinks that maybe he and Dajit will have fun together, as Mum hopes. He lies awake for a long time, staring into the dark. How do you think Rashid's feeling? And how do you think Dajit is feeling? He's travelling from India to visit his family in the UK for the first time, staying in someone else's house. Have a think. Put yourself in their shoes. My final story is about a girl called Lucy. And Lucy has been on holiday to Spain with her family for the whole summer holidays. Lucy's really looking forward to going back to school after her holiday. She's bought some brilliant presents, and she can't wait to give them to her best friends, Esme and Minnie. She sees them across the playground and smiles and waves at them. But they take no notice of her. They turn their backs and walk off with some other girls. It seems to Lucy that they're giggling about her. Lucy doesn't understand what has happened. She goes and sits by herself on one of the benches. She looks around at the other children, who are all pairs or in groups. She has never felt so alone. Gemma sees Lucy sitting by herself. Gemma's a new girl in the school last term, and she knows just how Lucy's feeling. She goes over to her and says, "Why don't you come over with us?" Lucy is really grateful to Gemma and goes with her, but she feels so upset with Esme and Minnie. that her feelings are in a real muddle. What do you think Lucy's feeling? And what do you think Gemma's feeling? Remember, Gemma's new, and she's gone across to Lucy to see how she's feeling, to encourage her to play. Do you think Lucy feels let down by Esme and Minnie? Does she feel left out? It says that she's never felt so alone before. Put yourself in Lucy's shoes. How would you feel? In each of the three stories, there'd have been a real mixture of emotions. Maybe some really positive and happy feelings, but maybe some feelings like butterflies or tension or anxieties. And all of those feelings are absolutely okay, and we shouldn't be afraid of them. It's about what we do next and how we get over them is what's really important. Let's think about each of the stories and then what happened to the characters that we met. In our first story, Ben joined the FS class in that brand new school. He had a brilliant time on his first day. And although school was bigger, with lots more children, and some different things to do, he could still play with the things that he'd enjoyed at his nursery. He made a new friend, and they both played at the water tray together and on the iPads. He helped build a bus, along with the large bricks. He also listened to an exciting story and played a counting game with his teacher. Ben was so busy that he almost forgot about his special tiny bear. The next day, Mum stayed in the classroom for a while, but soon he set her off for a cup of tea. And after a few more days, he told his mum that he was leaving his bear at home. Bears are scared of school, he said, but I'm not. In our second story, let's find out about Rashid and Dajit. When Dajit arrived, Rashid found it really difficult to share his room. And as for Dajit, well, he was homesick, that he hardly spoke for the first 2 weeks. When he saw how unhappy Dajit was, Rashid tried to cheer him up. He even encouraged Dajit to go on his iPad and helped him to learn English, while Dajit helped Rashid to improve his Urdu. Gradually, the two boys got used to each other and became good mates. Dajit is soon going back to India, and Rashid is going with him for a long visit. In the third story, Lucy felt alone. But after a few days, Lucy made friends with Esme and Minnie. But she never really understood why they'd made her feel so left out. Gemma is Lucy's best friend now. Lucy will never forget how kind Gemma was when she was feeling lonely and unhappy. Take a moment to think about our characters, Ben, Rashid, Dajit or Lucy, and think about some of the changes that these children went through and what they did to help each other out. Think about the kind and helpful thoughts, just for a minute or two, that other children in the story showed. And remember that any changes that make you feel a little bit uneasy or a bit uncomfortable, try to think of the positives as well, and think about how you can overcome some of those uncomfortable feelings. The last 12 or 13 weeks has been a huge change for all of us, hasn't it? None of us ever expected to be learning the way we have been, but think of the amazing things you've done over the last 13 weeks. Think of the things you never did before, and now you do it like it's second nature and like it's habits. A lot of those changes made your teachers feel really uncomfortable at the start as well. They were really unsure about doing the best for you, but they tried their absolute best. They tried new things out, and they adapted as they went along the way. And that's the same for you too. Routines might have been really hard at the start of the first few weeks of online learning, but as you got used to it, you got into a flow and a pattern, and it all worked out okay. And you might still find things difficult now, but that's all right, because someone's there to help you, whether it's a brother or a sister, mum or dad, or your teacher being at the end of an email or the end of Seesaw. Changes can be really good, but they can be a little bit worrying too, and it's okay if they're a bit worrying for you. Thank you for listening to my assembly today. I hope you like the stories, and I hope you can reflect on some of the changes that you've been through, or maybe some of the changes that you're going to be going through over the summer. I hope I see everyone face to face together in September, because we can't wait to see you very, very soon. Thursday's assembly is a live assembly. I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Have a great week, and I will see you on Thursday.